Guys around the world and the great beyond, welcome back to another installment of the Schtuff podcast. I am your faithful host, Anthony Claiborne, joined by my brother all the way from Thailand, John SB, and we got a great guest for you today that John's going to introduce in a moment. How are you, John?
I'm doing good, brother, man. We just, trying to get back in the swing of things here and keep moving on and fighting off the crazy coronas and all those things. And, we getting back in the swing of things. We did our second outreach.
Coronas for posers anyway. Modelo is where it's at, what I've been told.
Man, why are you going to make a beer reference? This is a Christian podcast, man. We talking about making beer references.
I didn't say it was for me. I'm just saying,
like, why you? This is a Christian podcast, man. Unless you Presbyterian, we don't condone drinking. I'm just saying.
I thought you were Reformed.
I am, but I don't drink. But I like a good cigar.
It's already off the rails. We're just.
It's gone.
Our poor guest, if you're watching on the YouTube channel, our guest is going, "What have I gotten myself into?"
Yeah, they always do.
Like,
they always like
disappear.
Like, well, we lost our guest 30 seconds into it. But we are here with our good buddy, friend, partner, and actor friend compadre from the great surfing state of Indiana, Matt Moore. Matt is an actor. He has been in a couple movies that we had the director on from George Johnson. If you hadn't seen that episode, go back and watch it. It's a really great episode. But yeah, Matt's worked with him.
John is actually sober for most of it.
I was fairly sober for most of it. Yes, it was. Matt's been in the Homeless for the Holidays is one of his main features. He was the main guy in, and he looks like to me in that video, skinny Adam Sandler. And so we're gonna talk about that. And then he was in Thy Neighbor, which is another great show filmed by George. And I found out today, looking on his IMDb page, that he was in 2 episodes of Lost.
Which I'm very stoked about.
Yeah,
because we wasted a lot of our lives on Lost.
Exactly. Wait, he was still in the TV on one of them and crying on another one. That's just two great scenes. And so we're happy to have Matt here, man. Thank you, brother, for coming on with us, man.
Oh my goodness, absolutely. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Pleasure's all mine.
Man, we just excited to have you. And I'm serious. Like the Lost episode, like I was kind of more excited about talking about that than I was about the other 2 movies because
we wasted so much of our lives on Lost.
It's like 10 years of Lost. No, but like
I never watched it. I never got into Lost, so I didn't waste 10 years of my life with that stuff.
Oh well, we got to end the show now. I'm sorry. It was great having you, Matt. Hope to come back soon when you go see Lost. Go watch.
Thanks, guys. Enjoy your weekend.
Go watch all 75 seasons of it.
We were so into Lost that when it ended, some friends of ours who were also into Lost, the lady actually printed shirts, like heat transferred T-shirts with like that logo from that collective thing, the
DARPA thing or whatever it was.
That DARPA thing, yes. So we actually had T-shirts and everything to watch the series finale.
Oh,
I'm a little ashamed of that.
You should be. You should be. The dork meter just went off the needle.
We already know I'm a bit of a dork. I love Star Wars. I love Lord of the Rings.
Which would be fine. Like if you just said I have like a Gondor shirt, I'd be like, cool. But you got a DARPA Lost shirt printed to watch the last episode of this movie.
I was not the only person who did that. I guarantee it.
So when the credits rolled on the last episode, what did you do with the shirt?
There's a question.
I think I took it for a sleeping shirt. You know what I'm saying? It ended up in my pajama drawer. And eventually probably a paint shirt. Right. A project around the house.
Your friend gonna be mad, but like, I spent hard money.
Right. Were you disappointed with the season finale? Like, how, I want to see like facial expression as it was like rolling the credits.
I was a little, to be honest. I felt like it was a bit of a cop out the way they ended the series. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I
just
don't,
thought,
because I didn't watch it.
Yeah,
Like, I
yeah.
didn't
I
wait
can't
my
I
life.
can't spoil it for you, so I won't say anything. But I
Okay.
felt like they could have had a stronger ending, and I don't know.
My
Um,
my thing is the fat dude never lost 3 pounds in 27 seasons. That's my thing. You this joker on a deserted island with
but there were
with
food stores on that island.
and that joker must have ate every single one of them because he didn't lose a pound. I like man, I can just suspend some disbelief a
And
lot
there
of
was
time.
coconuts, and coconuts are high in fat.
Man, I eat coconuts all the time. I'm not saying I'm the picture of health or lean or I'm chunky and I'm fine with that. What I'm saying is like you eat all coconuts, you gonna be pooping yourself. You'll be like pooping yourself until you just slim. Just saying. My bad.
Thank
I'm
you.
sorry. We
Thank you for
digressed. I'm
that.
sorry.
No.
I'm
Thank you for
sorry.
that. So Matt,
Like,
Matt. So Matt's got a lot of stuff going on. Matt is an actor. Matt is a coffee shop owner, which I'm pretty stoked about because I've always wanted to own a coffee shop. I'm gonna be honest. I've always just thought that'd be so cool because although it would be a little bit like a coke addict being a drug dealer, that wouldn't work out real well. And he's a pastor, so gosh, a lot to talk about there. Let's start with acting. Like,
sure.
how did that happen? How did you get into? How did you become an actor? Was that something you always wanted to do, or did you kind of fall into it? Did you lose a bet?
Well, so okay, so I was raised in a very small town in Indiana, right? But our church had a lady who was just a creative savant. I mean, she was always doing musicals with us kids. And so I just started out in church, and twice a year she would do these big musicals, and so we were always a part of that. You know, the kids didn't have an option. It was a small church.
Right.
Every kid was enlisted for the musicals, whether you wanted to be in it or not.
Voluntold.
So, yeah, so it started out with just my parents forcing me to do it. You know, I was a farm boy. I was raised out in the country on a farm. You know, we had, raised all of our own animals. So I wanted to be outside all the time in the woods and the creeks and the mud. And my parents wanted me to be in church and musicals, which was very fun story. Yeah. But the more I did it, the more I loved it. I went on. Okay, so do you guys remember the show Muscle Beach
I think vaguely.
with Annette Funicello and Frankie
Yes,
Avalon?
yes,
I'm
yes,
dating
yes.
myself, right?
Yeah.
She had Muscle Beach, you had Bikini Beach, like
Yeah.
all those things, right? And so I had this major crush on Annette Funicello. And I was destined, right, to move to LA and bump
That was
Frankie
Barbara
out
Eden.
of his space, right? And so as a kid, though, I didn't know that she was still aging. And by the time I actually made it to LA, she was going to be like 70. But that was my goal. Like, I want to move to LA. I want to be an actor. I want to live on the beach. And so as a little kid, I always told my parents, I'm moving to LA. Like, I'm moving to Los Angeles. I'm going to own a surfboard. I'm going to surf, and I'm going to be an actor. And they were somewhat concerned, I think, with that dream. And so, I got to high school and they're like, would you just please go to college? Like get a degree, anything. We don't care what the degree is in, just please go to school. So I did. And upon graduation, I moved out to LA and I wanted to do it. And so I started pursuing acting.
What did you get your degree in?
In theater and broadcasting. So I double majored in both of those.
Very nice.
Yeah. And so, and then moved straight out to LA to try to make it work. But B-roll, summer after my senior year of high school, we were at a Navajo reservation working in an orphanage for a couple weeks. And there was the last night we were there. And the pastor on the reservation, had an altar call and just, I don't remember anything he said. All I remember was the Holy Spirit saying, are you willing to give up everything? to follow me. And in that moment, my grandma and several of the older ladies in our church were always saying, "Oh, you're going to be a pastor, Matt. You're going to be a pastor." I'm like, "There's no part of this that wants to do that. Like, I do not want to be a pastor in a small church in a small town," because that was the only life I knew. You know, I didn't know there were so many like ministry vocations available. I just thought it was just pastoring a church. And I just remember sobbing uncontrollably and going, "God, I can't do it. Like, I've had this dream in my heart ever since I was a little kid. Like, I just want to move to LA and be an actor. I cannot." And at that moment, I felt like he was saying, "Will you give that up and follow me?" And I just remember going, "No, I won't." And I tell you, and so, you know, LA, God's grace was upon me, and he protected me from so many just bad choices. But it was a fight out there, you know, and I think part of the fight was my unwillingness to let some dreams go. And, you know, but I didn't know, I mean, I'm almost 50 now. And so, you know, you learn a lot of life lessons in 50 years of life. And I think God, you know, oftentimes you see him take people who surrender the dreams, and God just refashions them, and they become so much more beautiful than what they ever could have created themselves, you know? And it wasn't that God, I think, was taking that away from me. I think he just wanted to be the one that fashioned it and molded it and placed it back in my life. Because when God is moving in it, the outcome is synergistic. I mean, God does things that the human spirit and will cannot do. And we cannot outperform God's miraculous movement in our lives, you know? And so, but it was a long time learning that lesson. And so I did very little in LA. You know, I lived out there for about 7 years and just fought tooth and nail just for auditions and try to get roles. And it just never broke free for me out there.
But did you learn to surf? But did you learn to surf while you were there? That's the question.
Not well. No, I can't even say that. I never met a Netflix fellow. Like, I was like, I totally like didn't score on
he
any
does,
level.
however, have an arrest record now and a restraining order from Annette Funicello.
Yeah. Is she alive? Like, is she still eating Jiffy or Skippy or whatever she was like?
I am unsure.
Wasn't it Skippy? Peanut butter?
I don't know, man. You got me on that one.
Find out.
Yeah.
Find out. Is this what we
I think
do?
she became like the Skippy peanut butter like endorser or something.
Wow.
And so it really went down, I think.
The fall of Anita.
Right. But, you know, I met my wife in LA. So she moved to LA to be a choreographer and dancer, and she is from Hawaii. So we met in LA working at, which I called the S word, but it was Starbucks. Because I had a little dream inside to one day open up a coffee house. And so I wanted to be a professional working actor and have like a chain of these coffee houses. And so I don't know how much you want me to talk, but I was like 10 years old. And we live about 30 minutes south of a town called Fort Wayne, Indiana. And that would be the biggest city close to where I grew up. And so my sisters took me to this one coffee house called Blue Mountain Cafe when I was about 10 years old. And it was a Friday night. I don't know why they took me. My parents probably made them for some reason on a Friday night.
They needed mom and daddy time. Here's $10. Take little Matt to the coffee house.
And this place was just so far before its time, like in our area. It was like this real bohemian feel. And it was just, I just remember as a kid just being blown away by the vibe of this place and going there. Every table was packed full of people. And as a kid, I just remember sitting there. And I didn't have a ton of friends like growing up because we lived way out in the country. So I didn't have neighbors to play with or anything. And so probably felt pretty alone most of school. And I just realized that I was like, man, this is a place where no one's alone. Like everyone was sitting with someone, and they were laughing and in a conversation, and there was, a band playing, and I was just blown away by the atmosphere. And I was like, if I could ever create a space where everyone feels like they belong, I would love to do that someday.
Sometimes you just want to go where everybody knows your name.
I was about to say, it's like describing Cheers. You're describing Cheers.
Right?
Like,
so,
there was a guy.
So that's what,
there was a barista behind the bar named Sam, and there was a
Right.
manager. They had like a thing
Woody
together.
Harrelson.
Exactly.
It was
It's great. It's great.
I got to jump in real quick. A couple of things here. All right, so put a bookmark right there. Real quick,
Okay.
Miss Funicello passed away in 2013, fellas.
Oh. Sorry for
they dedicated.
Sorry for your loss.
movie.
Sorry for your loss, Matt.
So,
sorry for your loss.
That ship is sailed, Matt. Sorry.
Sorry.
But I do want to point this out. I think I just picking up on something you said. So often we have this idea of what our life is going to be, and there's that old adage, we make our plans and God laughs. I don't think God laughs. I don't think that's the case. I think God, though, does say, yeah, you know what? I actually got something better for you if you'll just chill and let me show you something.
I think God laughs his head off. I think God is laughing, like going, ha,
well, I don't think in a sarcastic sense, though.
I think God's sarcastic. I think he is sarcastic and be like, you were dumb. Would you just stop doing what you're doing?
Sarcasm is a form of violence. So,
hey, have you read the Old Testament? Have you read the Old Testament?
Fair point, Reform Boy.
I'm just saying.
But what I'm trying to point out is how so often, God just like, he's working, and there were things in like Matt's life that God was doing and preparing and bringing him to that point. I bet the stuff you learned in LA, even though it didn't take off for you and you got thrown off of Annette Funicello's front lawn and so forth, but
does that restraining order, like, is that post-mortem too, like her whole property, you can't go back
you
to her
can't
property?
even go near her like grave or anything?
Is that
post-mortem? Can't even go
from the cemetery. It's a mess. Actually, that's why I left LA. I just didn't want to say that.
We say it. This is a safe space, man. This is a safe space, man.
Left LA.
He was escorted out.
So check this out,
Some
Matt.
people would call it stalking charge. Some people would call it.
Do you know who the famous actress Ava Gardner is from back in the day? Yeah. I'm literally sitting about 15 minutes from her grave. She grew up in Smithfield, this like right down the road from my house. And when she passed away, they brought her back and buried her in the cemetery there. There's a museum to her in Smithfield, just a few miles from my home. But anyways, God guides us. I just think that I just wanted to draw that out. And it's interesting how he planted that seed as even a 10-year-old little dude for you to create that space for people. Now pick that up. Talk about that space.
And you talked about like lessons learned in Los Angeles, right? So, I mean, that was such a period of education for me about humanity. And, being raised in a very small town with, there's not a lot of diversity, probably zero diversity, especially in race and social economics. I mean, it's just kind of middle class, right? A lot of farmers, a lot of factory workers. And so I went out there with a lot of prejudices, probably, of certain people groups, of people that lived alternative lifestyles that I thought were different, and a lot of judgment, and I just started meeting beautiful people with amazing stories, and sometimes those amazing stories were stories of deep hurt, you know, and in LA, everyone has a story. You meet so many transient people. Everyone's there for something. You know, natives of like LA are very few and far between. So
You can't find
something
them, huh?
like, yeah, so something propelled them there, a dream, a desire, a lifestyle, whatever it was. And I just started meeting all these people. And I'm like, man, they're really not much different than me, you know, and I just saw, you know, as a Christian going out there, you know, which I was ridiculed, you know, by numerous people from my church. You know, why would you go out to, you know, Sin City and like you're gonna become a Satanist and you're gonna like worship? Like, I'm like, what? Like, I just went
And he
actually
dabbled a little, but you
for it,
know,
right?
he never went all the way into Hotel California. Um,
So I got a lot of like judgment thrown at me, like just for desiring to move out there. But man, it just expanded my view of humanity and the heart of people and the stories that they tell and where you know, Elvis sang a song a long time ago called "Walk a Mile in My Shoes."
Hmm.
I don't know if you guys remember that, but
My
in
mom
it
was
he
a
said,
huge Elvis fan. I grew up hearing all his stuff, man.
"Oh, I love Elvis." I mean, he was another reason why I moved to LA. Like, I watched Elvis movies and Annette Funicello and Frank Zappa movies.
You should have moved
And
to
a little bit of
Mississippi. You should have moved to Mississippi. You'd been closer to Elvis, man. You're like,
and
that's where
it's
the beautiful land is. I'm saying that's where he was singing about. Saying
so like I think God began to really put like compassion in place of judgment in my life, and the desire to create a space for people to belong only increased. And so yeah, I was bummed that the acting thing didn't work out there, but what I learned in the process of it was, you know, man, it was so worth the ride. I loved it. Loved it. And I love the people out there. I miss LA. My wife is like, you want to move back to LA? I was like, I want to move to LA every single day. Like, my heart beats for that city, you know, and there's something about, you know, and it is a very dark city and there's lots of pretentiousness and there's just a lot of, a ton of, you know, immorality, which is all over, but it's just consolidated there, you know? So when you walk in as a Christian, there is something automatically opposing to the way that they're living. But there's so much beauty in that. I mean, I've never been asked more about my faith than when I lived in Los Angeles.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you're sitting in a chair with, you know, makeup artists, and like, you know, and they're like, why are you so joyful? Like, why do you come on set every day? And like, you talk to everyone, even the people that everyone else passes by. Like, why? You know?
well, let me tell you about this
like,
man named Jesus.
yeah. But like, now that we're back, like in Midwest America, no one asked, right? So it's kind of assumed or accepted that, oh, everyone kind of, you know, believes in God and goes to church and, you know, and everyone's a good person, you know, and so there's no question, there's no wondering why you are the way that you are, and so I miss it.
That's something that you know, like I was talking to, I think me and Anthony's talked about this before, but I've got to share the gospel on the jiu-jitsu mats more than I have ever, like just in other ministry, you know, areas, like just living life and being in a world that you're having to, like, you're literally having to connect with, you're having to be a part of, you're having to work together in. It opens up an opportunity to share the gospel so many times, and a lot of times it's like, why are you so happy to be here, or why are you so, you know, whatever it is, and it opens the door for talk about Jesus, man. It's a really, like I said, a beautiful thing to get to share your faith and share the gospel with people that wouldn't walk in a church to hear it, but would definitely hang out with you somewhere else to do it.
That's why we did what we did when we started, and I'm not even gonna call the brand name so it don't look like a shameless plug.
Plug it, man. Plug it. It's our show. Plug it. We want to plug it. Well, plug it, dadgummit.
When we as a family started Death Roll Lifestyle Brand, which right now is like, we have a skate division. We're going to add other lines like jiu-jitsu apparel and different things. But the reason we did what we did, and use the motif we use, like skulls and stuff like that. We didn't want to start another Christian apparel brand. We felt like the world didn't need that. We felt like the world needed Christians who were willing to go to where they were and to try to create something that would connect with them, to have that platform to share our faith. And we've already had that. I mean, just last night, I was talking with a dude from Massachusetts who reached out to us online.
What state?
Massachusetts.
What?
Yes.
Massachusetts.
Massachusetts.
Okay.
Yes. Anyways, and you know, a lot of the skull motif and stuff is there because we actually want to call attention to like mortality. We want people to think about their mortality. But I'm with you, man. I think so often, you know, and John too, we have opportunities sometimes in those places more than we do other, you know, in the church world, because it's like we said in Lord of the Rings, a little light. It's a little light that shines real bright in a dark place. And
I've noticed that at the coffee house, there's more ministry that happens in
I
that
bet.
space than when I was ever a pastor inside the church, you know, and that's why we started. You know, for one, there was just a need for a space for young people to hang out, you know, and initially when we were opening it and I started, you know, I went down to part-time staff and I eventually just phased out of vocational church, you know, pastoring. You know, people are like, "Oh, you're opening up a Christian coffee house. That's so cool." I'm like, no, I'm not. Like, don't ever tell anyone I'm opening a Christian coffee house, because it's not. It's just a coffee house. It's a space, and the guy running it loves Jesus. That's the only thing. Because what you're going to do by advertising it as that, the very people that won't step inside the church won't step in this space. And they're the ones that I want them to know that they belong here. You know, and there's going to be a guy there who's going to respect them and love on them. And so in my staff, that's the same thing. I say, listen, everyone's worthy of respect. Everyone's worthy of kindness. Everyone's worthy of your attention, you know, and so we really strive to invest in every person that's coming in there, you know. And I get a lot of people that aren't Christians, but they know, like, I was a pastor. And so they'll ask me, they'll be like, you know, hey, you know, this is going on, and I don't really like believe in prayer, but like, can you pray for me? You know, and just the door starts opening, you know, and God gives us such an amazing gift of access into people's hearts, and that's a gift that, man, we can steward it with great care, or we can be incredibly foolish with it, you know? And so if we can, man, when they are open and you're just dropping just little nuggets in at a time, right? You're going to be the one that they come back to, you know, when they need a little bit of wisdom, or they got a question about something, or things are blowing up in their face and they just need someone to listen. They're going to come, and there's a guy at a coffee house who I trust, and I know he values me, and I'm just going to go there. You know, a mom called me a couple weeks ago, and this girl was having car trouble, and she walked down to the coffee house and she just sat there, you know, and we closed up and we were closing, and we were like, you stay here as long as you need to. And her mom called me up a couple of weeks after that happened. And she's like, listen, she goes, I just want you to know, as a mom, how important it is to me that I know my daughter had a safe place to go. And she sat in there for like an hour and a half waiting on her parents to get there, you know? And that's why we created this space. And it's awesome. Love it. Absolutely love it. Love it.
Yeah. It's good. That's the thing, I think that God does. He takes things that in our lives, the passions and influences and things that we love, and uses it for His glory, His purposes, and His reasons. If we'll turn it over to Him, you know, and just like you said, giving up on those dreams. Like, my dream has always been, I want to find a little church in the mountains somewhere, the 40, 50 people in it, and just preach the word of God, love on them, get them on fire for Jesus, and then send them out. That's my heart, my desire, my plan, whatever. That's what it was. And God's like, no, you're not doing that. I even moved back to Virginia to do that. I left to Thailand the first time and moved to Virginia to do that. And I was at a little small church, not too far out in the mountains. I was assistant pastor of a church there, working in that area, and God just wouldn't let my heart go from this, and everything that that was all the passions for martial arts and for guys that would get to teach and the rescuers and all these things. He just utilized that to glorify him and give me something that I can never even imagine, which is, I got 6 kids that I adore, that I never would even have known existed if I had tried to hold on to that dream of wanting to be a little pastor in a small church somewhere.
And I'll tell you too, bro, in all seriousness, like, the reality is, by being obedient to God's voice, you literally allow God to use you to, like, change generations. I mean, like, you think about the children that God's placed in your home, along with your biological daughter. They're all your kids, but along with your biological daughter, the ones that he's placed there, how different their lives would be and how that would reverberate generationally. So you probably will not live long enough to even see just how deep the influence is going to be on their lives. I mean, we're talking great grandchildren, great grandchildren. We just don't know. And so it's, guys, who are listening, all of us have something that was our perfect picture of what our life was going to be, right? And it's hard to let go of that. And I think part of the reason that guys, specifically in our age bracket, really, are sitting here talking today, struggle, and you hear about, like, midlife crisis and that kind of stuff, they struggle, and I think that a lot of it is because of trying to hang on to what they pictured their life was supposed to be like. The moment of freedom is when we just, like, completely let go and just say, yay. Like you said, Matt, at that altar, give it all to God. That's the moment of freedom, when you finally just let go and say, you know what, let's think with eternity in mind. This is just a blip on the radar of what my life really is. And so what I do on this side is just that much, just something to think about.
And I think and this is, where I definitely think God will do for us. If we're his, he's not going to let you go from that. He's not going to let your heart go from that call in your life. He's going to keep knocking at the door. He's going to keep beating you upside the head sometimes to get you to listen to what he's calling you to do. Because it's, like I said, that's he loves us too much to not do that. So yeah, I think it's a any guys out there that's struggling with that, man, look and see ask God what does he want you to do? Like, where does he want you to be? What's he put in your life already to minister and to love and to share the gospel with, and to draw somebody closer to him? That's what it's all about. Whether you're a mechanic, whether you're working at a factory, whether you're a barista at Starbucks, your call is
The S word.
I'm sorry, my bad. What's the name of your coffee shop, brother? What's the name of your coffee shop?
Shaka Shack.
Shaka. The Shaka. Shaka.
There you go.
There you go.
Shack.
In Gary, Indiana.
Monroe. What? No, not Gary. Monroe, Indiana. Yeah, it's got it's a real surfer skater feel to it.
Yeah.
Very different than what you would find in farmland USA, and thought that we'd really just pull in the younger crowd. But we have senior citizens coming in because they love it. they're like, it is
That's
so
awesome.
vibrant in here, and there's just life in this space. And so we get a ton of like older people just hanging out who are so supportive of what we're doing. It's good. I love it. But getting back to, so I'll walk you through a little bit of a timeline. So I met my wife. So I moved back from LA to Indiana, and actually still with Starbucks. So I started helping them open up Starbucks stores around Indianapolis. And my wife and I were married, and we were having our first son, and then we had our second son, Elijah. So Malachi and Elijah are our boys. And I remember I was working at that time. I shifted from Starbucks and started working for a land developer as a marketing director, and just miserable. It was just awful. Because I knew I wasn't in the space where I was intended to be, and I just found myself sitting outside one night, and the Holy Spirit's like, are you ready now? Like, are you ready to give it all up now? I'm like, I'm ready. Like, I want what you want, I want to move with you. I don't want to move against you anymore, and within like 2 weeks, my wife had like a mental like breakdown. So she started running away from home, like mentally just was thinking she was someone else, was hearing voices, like she was put into she wasn't put, we took her to a behavioral unit for a couple of weeks, seeing things that weren't there. And so the doctors initially thought it was like postpartum depression, because our second son just been born. And just at that moment, her parents call up. They're like, hey, would you guys be willing to move to Hawaii so that we can help Jamie heal? We can help you. At that point, our son was 2 months old. Our other son was like 17 months old. So they're both like, I'm like a single dad at this moment. And then my in-laws say, hey, there's a Bible college here. If you guys move back, we would help you like go there, maybe get like a pastoral degree or something like that. I'm like, huh?
Okay, God.
And I'm like, okay. And then like a few weeks after that, someone knocked on our door and was like, hey, you want to sell your house? And this is like property taxes in Indianapolis jumped 10%. Like there were houses on the market everywhere. And our house was nothing special. It was just a ranch house in a normal like little neighborhood. And someone's like, you want to sell your house? I was like, yeah. I was like, I think we're moving to Hawaii. And they're like, you think you're moving to Hawaii? Like that's
depends on the house seller or not.
I was like, no, I'm pretty sure, And then my boss, the marketing director I worked for, high power, CEO, he was single, 45. He was known for his parties in Indianapolis. I mean, he was just, but hard. I mean, if you didn't do anything that he would just cuss you out in front of everyone, in front of all the employees. So he sent out a mass email. Everyone was supposed to meet with him and have like their yearly budgets ready. So I go sit in the boardroom. I'm waiting on him to get there and waiting for everyone else. No one's showing up. Like I'm the only one in the boardroom. Like everyone in the company is supposed to have like their yearly budgets ready to go. Like where is everyone? He comes and sits down, and I'm like, hey, what's going on? And he's like, no, I just want to hang out with you. I just wanted to see what's happening in your life. I'm like, this is not you. Like he never cared about anybody, And I mean, the Holy Spirit just began to give me like prophetic words about his life. And I just started speaking into his life, and he's just crying. And he's like, I know everything you're saying is true, but I'm not ready to follow Jesus.
Wow.
And I'm like, he was raised in a Christian home, which I did not know that, but this started coming out, and I guess his parents really forced it on him, and he just ran as far away as he could run. And it was just like, so God was just like, I mean, it was 4 months from the time my wife was in the hospital till we were in Hawaii. I was enrolled in Bible college, getting my pastoral ministry degree and theology degree. And that's what took us to Hawaii. But then God starts opening up all these doors on the acting thing in Hawaii. And so I start nailing all these parts. Like I'm working all the time. My agent's loving me. She's like sending me out all the time. The church had a film division that we were going to, a big church out there. and got to know the director really well. And we're still really good friends to this day. And so God just began to like open stuff up that's never really happened for me before in the acting side of it. And right as soon as I graduate college in Hawaii, I get a phone call from my mom. She's like, hey, she goes, our church back home, like the pastor just left. Would you consider like applying for it? And I was like, no, are you kidding me?
I live in Hawaii, woman. I'm in Hawaii. Do you understand? No, I'm not going to Indiana. It's Hawaii.
Yeah.
I like never. I say, Mom, we will. I like never move back to Indiana, which breaks my mom heart. I mean, I had a super close family, but I was like, I just never felt like I belonged in Indiana. And I hung up the phone, and the Holy Spirit was like, "Are you willing to give up everything to follow me?" And I was like, we're going back to Indiana. I know it. Like in my brain, I'm like, why are you cursing me, God? Like, why? Like, I'm trying, like, I'm going to school to be a pastor. I'm doing all these things for you. Like, why can't you just throw me some bones, with like the acting thing and help that kind of build up? And I'm starting to get angry. I'm like, God, all these dreams, like, haven't left. Like, they're still inside of me. And he's like, if you don't think that I can make your dreams happen in a place like Indiana, because in my brain, where I grew up was a graveyard for dreams. No one went off to do anything. You ended up in the factory, or you ended up farming or something like that. Like, I'm like, you're sending me back to the graveyard of dreams. And remember, the Holy Spirit said, it's a good thing that I bring the dead back to life.
Wow.
I was like, and my wife the whole time, she's like, hey, I know we're supposed to move back to Indiana.
Wow.
So you have all the discussions you need to have with God, but I already know it. Like, we're moving back. And she's like, and I'm good with it, and which was hard for her because she's from Hawaii. She's a local girl, and Hawaii's its own little culture. And so we moved back, and that's when I started pastoring.
That's awesome.
But as soon as we moved back, my wife had another mental like breakdown. And so this time she got diagnosed with being schizophrenic, psychotic, bipolar, manic depressive. And each one of those labels comes with a whole bunch of pill bottles, and I'm like, God, what is going on? Like, I just landed this pastoral position, and my wife is in another behavioral unit, just mentally just gone. And I have these two little boys that are 4 and 5 now. So now I'm a single dad. I'm pastoring a new church, a new pastor, and my wife, like, I don't know if she'll ever come out of it, And the one doctor's like, listen, your wife's going to be on a ton of medication her whole life, or she will be in an institution the rest of her life. Those are your two options. And I was like, I think and I remember I was like, I think that there's a third option. And it's called Jesus Christ. And I was like, he's got the power to heal her mind, to heal her body, to heal whatever brokenness is inside of her. But this went on for 14 years.
Wow. And
after 14 years, the doubt starts setting in, like, God, you're never going to heal my wife. Like, this is going to be our story. She's going to keep having these just total, because my wife is like anti-medication. So she wouldn't take her medication. And so, because she's like, I feel worse on medication because it numbs everything. She's like, I'm a zombie all the time. I can't enjoy my children. I don't enjoy marriage. I don't enjoy life. I just want to die. And so I was just, this anger inside of me just kept building up towards God. I stepped out of ministry. I was like, I can't do ministry anymore because the things I'm sharing from the pulpit, I don't even believe in here anymore. And I remember another day, just sitting alone. And at this point, I'm building the coffee house. So I started building the coffee house. And I was sitting on a stack of plywood in there and just yelling at God. I was just so angry. Because, it's like when you step out and you I think sometimes when we step out in obedience and we feel like God's supposed to respond to us in a certain way. Like we got these expectations of how he's going to bless us and how he's going to, unfold life for us, because we actually are obeying him and doing what he wants us to do. And so we feel like then it's only good things from then on. And I said, God, I don't think I believe in you anymore. And I said, I'm so hurt. I don't believe that you love us. I don't believe that you care about my family, and the Holy Spirit's just like, I love you enough to give you choice.
Wow.
You can choose not me. And you've made your choice. He said, but there's no middle ground. Like you either got to fully choose me or you got to fully not choose me, but you can't hang out in the middle. And I remember at the moment thinking, you know what? I've seen too much of God in my life. I've seen him in other people. I've seen people being healed. I've seen prophecies fulfilled that were spoken over people. I've experienced all these things. And I was like, well, I know that I can't walk away from you because I've seen too much of you. So I'm just going to trust you, and if you see our coffee house on the one wall, real big is painted. It's capital H, capital E, greater than sign, and then a little I. So he is greater than I. Just to remind myself that God sees so much further than what I could ever see. And, in the process, my wife, this was 2015, and my wife left. My in-laws came back, took her back to Hawaii. And she just said, I'm never coming back again. So if you and the boys ever want to see me, you'll have to move out here. And I'm like, we're not, but mentally she just was just not there. And so, but I'm so frazzled at that point. I'm just like, that's good. Stay in Hawaii, the boys and I will be much better probably without you here. That's what I wanted to say to her. But for some reason, like the Holy Spirit had just convicted me so deeply to never disrespect her, never to talk poorly in front of our boys about her, so that they would respect and love their mom in spite of things that they were seeing her do. And this one day she called me and she was just, just really letting me have it. Because mentally I became the bullseye for lots of stuff, with her. And she was just telling me how much she just did not want to be with me. She didn't want to be married anymore. And at that moment, I'm just like, inside I wanted to say so bad, like, yeah, well, me neither. I don't want to be with you. Like,
can we start a club?
Good distance, right? And then the Holy Spirit's like, listen, Matt, he said, your wife has done nothing to you that you have not done to me. And my love for you is unconditional. And I can teach you to love the same way if you let me. He says, so I'm going to teach you how to love your wife unconditionally. And you're going to see when Paul writes that love never fails, you're going to see that come true in your life. If you obey what I'm telling you to do, so I just, but inside I'm like, man, I don't want to do this. I'm so angry at my wife. I'm just want it to be done. And that was 2015. So now we're 2020. September we'll be married 19 years. She's been completely healed. Our marriage is the best like it's ever been, and it keeps getting better. And we have two amazing boys that love and respect their mom. And like she's no medication. Like we found God brought into our lives this little Indian psychiatrist, and I thank God for him all the time. Don't know if he was a believer or not, but it probably like after the third time my wife met him, he was like, Jamie, he's like, I don't believe that you have anything that any of these doctors ever told you that you had. Because for 14 years now, she's been living with these labels, right? He goes, I think that you have so much hurt inside of you. And mentally you don't know what to do with it. So what happens is you don't sleep. And when you don't sleep, you start hearing voices, and then you start seeing things. And then he said, I want you to see a therapist that can help you like get through this hurt. And man, all the stuff that started coming out, she was sexually molested as a little girl. She was hooked on porn from second grade. It's second grade. And so you think of what that does to a little girl's mind, how they view sexuality, how they view love, how they view beauty, and all that stuff had to be just unraveled out of her life. And she had really had to be built back up again new. And after a year, like both of her doctors were like, listen, we don't think you need to see us anymore. We think that you're healed. You're good, and so we're so grateful. But, what God was teaching me, through all of that, as I grew up with a mom who was almost overly encouraging. Like if any of us kids ever got into something and it wasn't fun anymore, she would just say, well, obviously it's not your thing. Why don't you quit and try something new? So I spent my whole life like, oh, drums are fun. Nah, they're not fun anymore. So I'll quit that. I'll quit football. I'll quit wrestling. I'll quit, so I had a pattern of quitting all of these things when they weren't fun anymore. Suddenly I'm in a marriage that's not fun anymore.
Wow.
And so my natural tendency was to want to run away. And God had to, what he did in her life and my life through all of that, there was just as much healing that needed to take place in my mind and in my heart as in her mind and her heart. But I didn't see that, right? I just thought it was all her until the Holy Spirit really started saying, hey, there's some stuff in here that I just got to cut out, So
I never cease to be amazed, man, at like when we sit down with somebody to talk to, you know what I'm saying? Like just like earlier, we were talking about how we have our plan and God has his plan. You know what I'm saying? Like I never cease to be absolutely blown away. Matt's a cool guy. He's a pastor. He owns a coffee shop. He's an actor. We're going to sit down and chat with Matt. And then God opens and like starts pulling layers of the onion back. And the things you're saying, man, are just so powerful, like for real. And, the guys out there listening, the number of guys we have listening now, like, we're up to 5, right?
They were right? Maybe 6, maybe 6.
Okay.
Maybe 6 on a good day.
There is a guy out there, man, I feel like that needs to hear what you said. That, maybe it's not the same scenario, but they're struggling in their marriage and they're struggling to see the light at the end of the tunnel and not think it's a train. There's a guy out there who is been convinced that God is against him and has probably been very angry at God. And the things you're saying, we don't know what everybody's story is going to be, but you're sharing hope. It's a story of hope, and it's. I apologize for interrupting, but I'm like, man, that's just so beautiful that God brings that story of hope to us.
And that's the thing, man. Like, if there's anybody out there that's struggling with that or struggling in marriage, we all have struggled in marriage, and to some degree. But man, God is for your marriage. I say this all the time. God wants your marriage to work more than you do. God wants your wife and you to be one flesh more than you do. And so if you, like you said, if you turn that over to him, he will heal it. He will bring unity in that. It's a struggle, and it's a lot of struggle. There's a lot of hurt, and there's a lot of things that have to happen. But don't lose hope, because God can restore. Even if you think it's beyond restoration, God can bring back restoration. So that's something that really, hit me in that. And while you were talking about that, and like this, our own struggles with my wife is a lot of similarities in there. And it's that knowing that God is for your marriage, that God wants for you and your wife to be one. don't ever forget that, and that's something that, that I have to be reminded of a lot, and so thanks for just reminding me of that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you
and
honored her, and I think that's huge. You honored her. You maintained that honor for her. I think that's so important.
there's sometimes we can pray and ask God to do things for us, and we forget that He wants to do it in and through us, and we sit back sometimes and we're like, well, God hasn't done anything, I've been praying, but He's not doing anything, and He just wants to do it through us, and that's one of the lessons I had to learn, as I was praying for my wife to be healed. She was part of her healing was going to be in me learning how to love her best,
Wow.
and really discover, how selfish I had been throughout our relationship too. And so God will work through us and wants to work through us. And there is hope. And you're absolutely right, Jonathan. He is for your marriage. He is for you. And He will not abandon you, and that's what I had thought for years, that God had abandoned me, that I was just a puppet in His hand and He was just having fun, just screwing up, my life and stuff. And man, I had to really repent, of that thinking. And so, it was a 14 long years, but I think, man, the beauty of our relationship. So an acting coach, Stanislavski, he was a Russian acting coach, right? So he's one of the guys that if you go through acting school and stuff, like you'll study about him. He said, if it were not for the weeds, the roses would lose their beauty. And I'm like, our marriage would not be as beautiful if we hadn't endured what we endured for 14 years.
Wow.
And so I think about that often. And I think about, when I was in college, going back to marriage still, there's our psychology teacher sat down with a group of us boys, and I was a sophomore in college. And he said, so boys, he's like, y'all think there's one girl out there for you? Like you're just going to find like the love of your life and life's just going to be amazing. And we're all like, oh yeah, yep. We sure do. There's one person out there, God's got this love of my life out. And he's like, let me tell you something. He said, love is a choice. It's not a feeling. He said, if you can understand that when you get married, that every day you are saying to your spouse, I choose you, right? Regardless of my feelings that day, regardless of what I'm thinking about when I wake up, that I've chosen you. And so when that always echoed in my mind all the time, is that I chose her. Even with what we're going through, I still choose her. And when you choose something, you're more willing to fight for it. And sometimes we lose our fight. And I think in marriage, we've got to be better fighters, and not fighting against each other, but fighting for each other. And oftentimes we excel in fighting against each other, and we forget how to fight for one another. And we get a lot of married guys coming into the coffee house, and so I get to talk a lot. But there's just oftentimes the default, and we can go to like in arguments or when we're talking with our spouse, is that our spouse is not for us. So we take what they say as like an attack against us. And then we start building up, our arsenal. So the next time it happens, like we're ready, right? Like, come on, let's throw down. Like I got it all lined up. I got my Tomahawk missiles, like they're ready to launch. And when really it's like, you know what? She thinks the best of me. So I've got to see what she just said to me through the lens that she loves me and wants me to be the best. And that changes your perspective on things.
It does. Don't say it's like, that's one of the things that, we always try to do in our marriage is the prayer is always, God, help me to see her like you see her. Help me to see her through your eyes, and that she is, even through all her faults, all her stuff, you see your child, you see your daughter, you see, a beautiful, godly woman that loves you, and that's her same prayer for me. And I think that when you can do that, when you can you see your spouse as not your enemy, and as like we're together, we're one flesh, in that you can start fighting. You're fighting the war as a unified front, and not, infighting that happens, and we get, like you said, lost up, and we get lost in the weeds, and we'll start tearing each other apart and wreck our own kingdom, our own battlefront that God's intended to be able to use for His glory. We start wrecking that. Go ahead, Anthony.
All right, Matt, you need to write a book. I'm calling it right here on the Guy Schtuff podcast.
Write a book.
You need to write a book about your experiences, and John just gave the title for it without realizing it.
What?
Lost in the Weeds.
Lost in the Weeds. There you go.
And I'm serious.
You know what, Matt? No, it is so interesting, because I've been thinking about writing a book. And actually, the title that kept coming to mind was Growing Weeds. Not growing weed, but growing.
That's a different thing.
Yeah,
that's another California lifestyle.
That's different book. Different book.
So it's interesting that you said that. I got to think about that.
Prophecy, man. We prophetic in here. We prophesying up in here. We having church.
Because it's like, it's like the one thing, right? When it's like drought season, the one thing that still grows in my yard are the weeds. And even when there's nothing, the weeds continue to grow. And sometimes we sit back and we do nothing in life, and we're just letting the weeds accumulate.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, I'm gonna get uber spiritual on you. Even the weeds can be provision. Now, and here's what I mean by that. You're familiar with dandelions, right? Everybody knows dandelions. Do you know how important?
Oh, here we go. Here the
Cayete.
I'm excited.
No, I just know where you're going with this.
Do you know how important they are?
I don't.
Like literally, like we have, bees are obviously very important to pollination and the growing of our crops. One of their main sources is dandelions. And everybody talks about this potential bee shortage, and right, which they're actually making a comeback, so that's good. But dandelions provide pollen for the bees so they can make crops grow, and dandelions are actually edible. They're like in a lot of Southern couture restaurants, they're cooking up dandelion greens and serving with meals. Even the weeds can be provision.
There you go.
And sometimes what we look at in our life is
okay. I'm making notes. Okay.
There you go.
So
dandelions.
Right. What was the title again?
Lost in the Weeds.
Lost in the Weeds. Not Lost in the Weed. That's an 80s movie.
That's Cheech and Chong.
Man, I'm lost in the weed.
All right, I'll write it down. And dandelions. Okay, I'm going to research dandelions. Were they in the B movie by any chance?
I'm not sure. I don't know the B movie.
The second choice for your book could be The Skinny Adam Sandler. That could be just
that'd be the subtitle.
That could
right?
be Lost in the Weeds.
Yes.
A Skinny Adam Sandler.
Exactly. That'd be it.
All right, sweet.
It could be Homeless for the holidays.
Man.
I don't know.
Man. George talked much about that film, because I think, I don't know if I'm supposed to say anything. I think I can. I think you put it on Facebook.
What's that?
So he's talking about doing a sequel.
Really?
To that movie.
Another movie I'll get passed over for. Right here. It's like, George, you watching? I'm saying he said we could be on the next one, but I still ain't had an invitation to none of this stuff. Just saying.
Nothing.
We got it recorded. We got it recorded.
But how did you ever meet George? Like,
Literally, I don't know. Like,
I have no idea.
I met
just
him.
show up. And people show up.
I literally, like, somehow we became friends on Facebook. We don't know any mutual people, like, until after we became friends on Facebook. Like, I don't know. Literally don't know how I met him. But cool guy.
Good one to know. George is a good friend of mine.
He's a good guy.
Oh, yeah, he's great.
I really like him.
Guy.
Me and him, like, literally, I talk to him almost like once a week. I just check on him, see how he's doing.
Yeah,
I like the guy.
He's got a really big heart. He really is like a super incredible guy.
Goodness.
Love the guy. Although I'm questioning his casting stuff with casting the crazy guy. Like, it was a great movie, but he cast a crazy guy. Like, he cast the crazy guy in Thy Neighbor. I'm just saying.
So, I was in the casting room when Dave walked in and auditioned for the film. He walked in as the character, auditioned, and there were probably maybe 5 of us sitting in the audition room. Dave walked out, and we just sat there in silence, and we just looked at each other. We're like, what just happened? Why do we feel like we all need showers right now?
He was not acting. He was not.
No, it was just like that. That movie, like, he played that part so well. I was
my goodness.
I literally was.
Amazing.
You can ask Anthony. You can ask George. Did you find this guy on the side of the road, like, just like hitchhiking?
We
with,
actually
like,
had a conversation with Dave about cats.
Yes, we did. We had a conversation with him about the cats in his backyard. Some dead cat. I'm like, dude, how many dead cats you got in your backyard? I asked Dave straight up. I just asked Dave straight up.
There were some head scratchers in that film. I mean, like, I'm not going to talk about some of them, but we know what we're talking about.
Yeah.
So. Man, the hot tub scene was like,
I said it before. Like, if that was real life and John was directing this movie would have been done there. Joker would have been
done.
Kicked in the throat one time
in the hot tub,
and it was over. Would have been like Thy Neighbor that you buried in your backyard. That's been the name of it. Been like,
we're actually
37 seconds.
I don't know what order these will air in because we record these and batch them and then release them.
George is going out in 2 weeks, and so this will be after George.
So we're going to actually have the opportunity. It'll be the first time a female has appeared.
Yes.
On Schtuff.
So we'll have Jessica on tomorrow.
Jessica is going to record with us tomorrow.
Yeah.
And I'm convinced Jessica should play a bad person, and I'm like, I think she actually would be like devious, like, and we're gonna talk to her about this tomorrow. I'm not saying anything I'm not gonna say to her, but she actually in conversations back and forth, I think she actually could play like that kind of character too. I really think so.
I think she would nail it, and not because she's like that in person,
because she's crazy.
She's just one talented person. She's awesome. So tell Jessica I said hello. I love her. She's amazing. So you'll have fun talking to her.
But one thing, before, I gotta ask you though, on the Back to the Lost thing, so you played the scene where you stole the TV and you got a gun put on you. You were in that scene with
somebody following him for the day that actually wasn't acting.
It probably was just the camera.
Times were lean, man.
He was in Hawaii stealing TVs, and so that's what happened. Had to get paid for college somehow. You're in that scene with one of my favorite characters from Band of Brothers. I can't remember his real name, but he's this Bull Randleman from Band of Brothers. The blonde haired cop that was in there. Like, I was like that was my boy. Like, I felt a little bit like I had to talk to you about that guy and doing a scene with that guy because he's my favorite character in the Band of Brothers series. And so,
hold up, I'm trying to think because Band, who is the actor's name? He's
Jamie.
got,
Come on, Jamie. Where you at, Jamie?
he's got like blonde, almost white hair and
Yes.
piercing blue eyes. Right?
Oh, I know yes, I know who you're talking about.
Look, he's always got a cigar, and he's in Band of Brothers is Bull Randleman is his name. Look him up there, Coach Cheese. Get his name up.
I'm on it.
See who it is.
Michael Cudlitz.
That's not Michael Cutlass, is it?
That's what it says. Michael Cudlitz. Yep, Bull Randleman.
Oh yeah, never mind.
That's it. That's him.
Never mind, that's him.
Who is like one of the stars in that series, Band of Brothers?
Oh man, you had the guy from Homeland. You got the guy. He was in
this guy,
Stephen King movie. He was in I can't remember his name. His red haired guy.
Oh,
he's one of the main characters. You had the guy from The Office that played not The Office, but Office Space. The main character from Office Space was in the movie. Was in the show. You had. I can't remember. There's a bunch of like amazing actors in it, but I can't remember none of their names.
That guy was a lot of fun. And I had actually a ton of time to talk to him because when we got to set, so actually I wasn't stealing a TV. I was moving out. So I was having a fight with like my girlfriend.
Your girlfriend, you were stealing your girlfriend's TV.
Stealing your girlfriend's TV. Okay.
Right. So we show up on set at this, and Honolulu has this area where it's just known. It's like, it's where the drugs are. It's where the prostitutes are. I mean, it is not a good, safe area. And so we're shooting in this hotel condo kind of thing that houses prostitution, drugs, stuff like that. But the set scout, that's what they got. So we ran everything. We're getting ready to shoot. And as soon as we get ready to shoot, cop cars start flying on set. And we're like, I don't remember that. Like,
this is the scene?
Like, coming in, like, and the director gets on a bullhorn. He's like, everybody off set now, move. And so we're like running off the set. Well, here, the manager of that apartment complex never told the owners, pocketed all the money, right? The owners just happened to get back from Japan the morning that we're shooting. They come there, see that there's a whole movie or a show being shot at their location, which they didn't want people to know about, and they threw everyone off set.
Wow.
So I sat with, what's his name? Michael
Cutlass,
something.
Cutlass.
So him and I probably sat at the like for 6 hours, just at a table, just talking. And Neil, there's a guy, Neil. Oh, what is his last name? He's been in a ton of movies, was in a movie with Tom Cruise, always plays kind of a bad guy. He's got real white, blondie hair, piercing blue eyes, a little bit more striking features. So he and I used to play softball together when I lived in Los Angeles. So those two guys were good friends from Band of Brothers, because he was in Band of Brothers too.
Oh, okay.
And so it was just fun. It was fun. But Michelle Rodriguez, like, she was super talkative to everyone. You know, she was as vulgar as you expect her to be. What's that?
Letty.
Who's Letty?
She played Letty in Fast and the Furious franchise.
Yeah, I haven't seen Fast and the Furious. Do I need to watch it?
Okay, interview done.
Man, how you like? You ain't seen Band of Brothers. You ain't seen freaking. What was the other one you hadn't seen?
You can drop your man card in the
Lost. The show you were in, you haven't watched it.
But you know, I hear a lot of actors do that. They like don't even like.
I don't like watching what I.
You listen to the podcast, John?
Okay, so
yes, I do listen to the podcast.
I'm thinking if my timeline is correct, right? Like Fast and Furious is coming out, at the time when Nemo's playing on our TV 16 hours a day because my boys are little.
I understand.
And we don't we're only watching stuff that little kids would watch, And so I missed a whole decade of great guy movies, probably.
All right. Well, you got to go back and pick those
I'm
up.
sorry, man.
We're going to do a guy stuff. We did back a couple weeks back. We did a episode called non-sexual music, and so I
have to apologize to everybody right now for the fact that we sounded high.
It was a little bit.
We were not high.
We were not. It was.
We were exhausted.
It was very much. Hadn't slept in a long time.
I did listen to that episode the other day when I was on going somewhere, and I was like, "Holy cow, we sound high, man."
It was 1960 to 1970. We were just method acting. It's fine. But so we're gonna we do that periodically. We do the decade of like non-sexual music and the top 10 songs. So we got to do like the top 10 movies from each decade too. And so make sure you tune in to the 90 or 2000 to 2010 area, so you can find the movies you missed, man. So
All right.
Well, let me ask you this: have you seen The Patriot?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So, all right. If you can answer.
How is that connected to anything he's been in, Anthony? How does that?
It makes him, just stay with me, John. Stay with me. We're trying to redeem him. Okay. So if you could say yes to any of these 3 movies, he's okay. So he said Patriot. Have you seen Braveheart?
My mom is a Wallace. Like, it's only been known, even before that movie, that William Wallace is in my family lineage. So, yes, I watch it a lot.
All right, number 3. Number 3. Have you seen at least one of the Lord of the Rings movies? At least one.
I've got them all, even the whole Hobbit stuff. Yes, we watched it. In fact, I just watched Return of the King last week again.
There you go. See,
because
faith
it's
restored.
so masterfully created.
Man, like
restored.
The scene that I cannot watch. I have to watch it because it's amazing. But it's my favorite scene in 2 favorite scenes in the whole movie and the whole thing is when they're doing the coronation of Aragorn, right? And they all walk up, they're all bowing down as the king's walking through, and the hobbits are bending down and they're bowing. He's like, "You bow to no one." And I was like, I was like just crying. I was like, I can't watch that scene without just going into tears every time.
He cried when Gandalf died.
Oh, you dang right, man. Dang right, I did, man.
Bonus round.
So, bonus, yeah.
Have you seen The Last Samurai?
Oh yeah, my wife is Japanese. Right. Like, I've got to watch The Last.
He's good.
Samurai.
He's good, John. He's good people.
But you're missing some classics.
All right, go ahead.
Well, I would consider like some guy like classics is Rocky.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
which Rocky? Which Rocky?
Oh.
Okay, so
no.
1 and 2 like are probably 1, 2, and 3 are my favorites, right? I love 3 with Clubber Lang because that's when like Apollo Creed is like training Rocky, and he's got that meltdown scene with Adrian on the beach, and he's like, "I don't know who I am anymore." He's like, "No,
good."
Yeah, that's great.
Good.
So I love that. But then Last of the Mohicans. You ever seen
that?
that?
I've never seen Last of the Mohicans.
It's an amazing movie.
Makes me lose my mind. Is so good. It's one of the few movies where I feel like the movie's actually better than the book.
I've never seen it.
See, I can't speak to that because if there's a book, I automatically search out if there's a movie, and I just watch the movie because then I'm not disappointed in the book or in the movie.
Gosh,
I'm not disappointed in anything.
That movie is so good.
I have to watch it. It's got. I've only seen I haven't ever seen any of Daniel Day-Lewis's movies. I haven't seen Lincoln. I haven't seen Gangs of New York. I haven't seen Last of the Mohicans.
Daniel Day-Lewis is.
I did see There Will Be Blood. I did see that one.
He's a good actor.
Yeah, so.
Yes, and he is. I actually met him at the Crucible premiere.
Oh,
so he was John Proctor in the Crucible.
Oh, cool.
And he was everything that you would hope that he would be. I mean, kind, just talkative, like respectful, like he was class act. Very cool guy.
All right, so being in the LA scene a little bit, I don't know what circles you run in, but I'm gonna ask a question. What's the most pompous person you've met, actor wise?
Oh,
is he allowed to say that?
Man, who watching our show? I mean,
okay, so I'm gonna have to go back because I wasn't in I worked for a company and we did a ton of movie premieres. And
Yeah.
so I was at a lot of movie premieres and met actors there.
There you go.
But then even when I was at Starbucks, we were right next to Paramount and Disney Studios and Warner Brothers. So we would get a lot of stars in our coffee house when I worked there.
All right.
And so, there's some that the cast of Will and Grace, they were shooting. It was a really popular show at the time when I was working out there. And they were not the friendliest people.
Really?
But then we'd have the cast of Friends come in. And they were awesome. They were super kind. I mean, just talkative. Joe Pesci, not someone I would want to hang out with on the weekends. But, just not a kind person.
How am I funny? How am I funny? How am I funny, Matt? Just like that the whole
he
time.
did try to kill a child in a movie twice.
I would say Ron Howard.
Yeah.
You guys know who Ron Howard is, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
He would bring his mom and dad in who were elderly.
Uh-huh.
His dad was in a wheelchair, and he would bring them in like on a Tuesday or Thursday night to our store, and just his parents, him, just down to earth, friendly.
That's cool.
He's just from Mayberry.
Yeah. I mean, he is everything you'd want Opie to be in an adult like body.
Yeah, it's good.
So
with a lot less hair. A lot less hair. So that's all. I'm always interested. I don't know why it fascinates me to find out like which people, because you associate people with their characters. You don't go, oh, this person's a really cool guy. But like meeting people in real life, you're like, that's why we love doing this podcast this length. You can fool somebody for about 15 minutes, but you get an hour and a half with somebody, an hour and a half, 2 hours, somebody. They can't keep that.
We
can't keep
will
it.
break you down.
They can't keep that facade up for that long. Something gonna break. So that's one of the things that we love doing this long form, this discussion, because you get to meet people and you get to see who they are.
I tell the girls I have on staff, and most of them are like high school girls, and they're like in and out of relationships with guys. I say, listen, and all the guys end up being jerks, right? I said, listen. But they all start off like the greatest guy in the world.
Yeah, it's wonderful. Right.
Any guy can fake it for 2 years. Any guy. And I tell my sons, listen, girls can fake it too, right? You can think they're the coolest girl you ever date, but you got to give it time. You got to see them in every situation. You got to know how they're going to treat their parents, how they're going to treat, people that they may not like so well or get along with. And so, so an hour and a half, if you can break me in an hour and a half, you guys are pretty. You guys need to write a book. You guys need to write a book.
Well, I'm just saying, like, we just want, like, we were getting George to say some things he wasn't supposed to be putting out there. We got some. He was like,
"Can you edit that out?"
Yeah, I was like, see,
got him spilling all the beans, all the beans.
But George,
but see, now you got something to hold on him, right? So if he doesn't put you in his next film, you're like, "Hey, remember that stuff?"
There it is. I still got the masters. I still got the masters of this. We can still do it.
That's it.
Right.
Exactly. There you go. See that? I like you thinking. Man.
I'm impressed. Like Matt's got through this whole thing without saying anything that I feel like we really need to edit out. There's like no cursing or
there's no like nothing we need to edit out. It's gonna be easy editing for us, guys. We gotta do something stupid just to edit it out. So be like, hey.
Well, I was gonna end it on a serious note. I was gonna ask him like just just real quick as we kind of move towards wrapping up, because I know he's got stuff to do.
Yes, you got stuff to do, not hang out with our stupid tails for another hour.
So,
but the serious question is this: why'd you do the man bun samurai top knot in thy neighbor pastor thing? Why'd you?
Was it the question I was going to ask?
Oh, my bad. I'm sorry.
I
liked it actually because I had my hair very similar to that at one point. So
I was hoping George Lucas would see the film and go like,
Jedi,
right there.
Jedi.
Come on.
Definitely. Loved it.
What was your question?
Yeah, what was your actual question?
Well, well, you mentioned earlier, just just where God had brought you and your wife, and so just as we wrap up, just one final word to guys out there, both of them who are listening.
We got six. We've established
we're up to six now.
We've already established this 6, man.
Hey, we didn't lose one. That's good. Like that's a positive, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, well, I feel like we lost some on that non-sexual music episode where we sounded like we were actually the Joe Rogan show. But I was like, holy smokes, we sound like Cheech and Chong.
Anyway,
But yeah, what would you say to that guy who's like at the breaking point? And just one final word to those guys. Then I'm gonna throw it over to John to kind of land the plane and put it on the runway, which is really scary.
You know, I think that it's, and this almost sounds like it's gonna break you more, but I really think that it's the process of being built up to endure. And, you know, even Jesus says, listen, unless you are willing to die to yourself, you cannot follow me.
Mm.
I mean, that's there's no gray in that statement, right? I mean, that's a scary statement, but it is a statement with so much hope to run well, you know. And I think that that's what I kept failing on over and over, is that Holy Spirit kept having to ask me, will you give up everything? You know, and until you are willing just to empty it out and go, God, I'm giving up everything. That doesn't mean that now it's hands off, because we're still fully engaged in the fight of it, right? And so it's just giving God access to everything in our life and letting him have the freedom to cut the junk out, you know. And we have so many selfish tendencies that if we allow Christ to really expose that stuff, that is the gateway to freedom, you know. And hope leads to freedom. Love leads to freedom, and love is a choice. As you guys know, marriage is hard work. Marriage is hard work. But is it rewarding? Oh my goodness. Yeah. I mean, the returns on investing in your spouse are far greater than investing in yourself, you know?
That's good, man.
So there was a verse that, oh dude, it's either Habakkuk 2:14 or Haggai 2:14. I get the H's confused. But the verse is, God says, therefore I will lead her out into the wilderness and speak tenderly to her, so that I may win back her affection. And the verse is a beautiful verse, but what makes it more beautiful are the verses before it, where God is telling Israel, you've been idolatrous, you've been rebellious, you've been a prostitute, like he's ripping them apart, like laying it all out. Like these are the things you've done against me. So then when you read that word, therefore, like you think, therefore, there's going to be a whole lot of whoop your butt, right? But he's like, because they deserve it. Like that's what they deserve. Right. And he goes, therefore, and then he turns on this intimate, romantic language that I'm going to bring you out and I'm going to remove you from the distraction so that I can speak intimacy and love into your life. And I would think that the guy that feels like he can't go on anymore is to get away, to remove the distraction, to find some solitude and allow God to begin to speak that truth and that intimate language into your life that changes everything. Because when he does it to you, you can do it to someone else.
That's beautiful.
You know, when like my wife
edit down the whole thing to that, that's huge. Keep going. It's good.
It's like, and that's how, you know, I read that and it broke me, because I know the junk in my life, you know, and I know the time I've been so rebellious towards God. And when he spoke that, so this is something my dad told me, right? Growing up, it's going to make my dad sound horrible, but he's not. He's like, Matt, if you step into an R-rated movie and Jesus comes back, you think you're going to go to heaven? Think he's going to take you? You know, If you're out, if you take a sip of alcohol and you're holding like a beer can in your hand, when Jesus comes back, you think he's going to take you? So what I understood about God was fear. What I didn't understand was love.
Wow.
In
I
that
feel like we went to the
verse,
same churches growing up.
same dad, maybe. I don't know. Oh, but that verse, man, it broke so many layers of lies that I had believed about God down. And then I could look at my spouse as well and go, hey, there's gonna be times where she just says stuff that she doesn't mean. This is gonna be hurtful, you know? But what we can do is we can get away. We could go on a date. We can find ourselves alone and just begin to just reaffirm our love for each other. And I think sometimes that we don't allow ourselves that time to check out from distractions and to be intentional about listening to the voice of God, and then being that voice into someone else's life, that when they leave our presence, they walk away better. And yeah, I think that's what I would say.
Good, man. That's good. That's
That's
beautiful.
good, man.
John, take us to the house, John.
Yeah, brother. Well, I mean, Matt's been great having you, man. We've and just enjoyed having you. Got to go all over the place with you, so it's been really, really good, and it's been really encouraging and really challenging.
I didn't even hear the pre-show.
What's that? Yeah, the pre-show
They
was
didn't even hear the pre-show.
was some of the fun stuff. But we've enjoyed having you. Hope you've had fun, man. Hope you've enjoyed it.
I loved it. Thank you guys so much for asking me to be part of your show. It's been a huge, I'm just grateful. Thank you, guys.
Man, it's
Thank
a
you
blessing,
for doing
brother.
what you're doing and giving a voice to guys. Appreciate it.
No, man, you're blessing us. You're blessed. Thank you for opening up your story and your struggles and with your marriage. It's been, hopefully I know it's been helpful to me and it's helpful to Anthony. I hope it's been helpful to our listeners out there. And I pray that if anybody's out there that's listening right now, still listening to the podcast, remember God's for you. God's for your marriage. God's for your for you and your life. Just don't give up hope. Keep running to Him, and He'll catch you. And so, Matt, once again, thank you so much. God bless you. And guys, don't forget to run over there, click the subscribe button, the notification bells. Go to the Facebook page and join up the Guy Schtuff Facebook page.
Follow on the gram.
Follow on the grams. Matt, have you joined the Facebook page, the Guy Schtuff Facebook page yet? Have you joined? I'm gonna throw you on the spot, man.
So, yeah.
All right, see,
okay.
I did when you first asked me. I did.
All right, there we go. Matt's on it. See,
I do want to buy a skateboard though.
All right.
So how do we do that?
I'll hook you up when we www.deafrollskatedivision.com, and I'm going to put that in the chat for us on this side.
Sweet.
Well, we go on that.
We'll even sign it for you.
There you go. Well, like I said, God bless you guys out there. Stay tuned. Next week we'll have some more amazing guests from all over different walks of life, all that love Jesus and want to see Him glorified. God bless you guys. See you next week.